Hey everybody, welcome to the Everything Paranormal Show. I'm your host, Josh Morris, and joining me today, not really in the studio, from our separated studios, thanks to the virus and everything else, Philip Page from Saving Ghosts. Philip, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself?
Oh, awesome. I love it. Having a good night tonight. I got you on the show, so I can't complain.
Well, this is fantastic. I can't thank you enough for reaching out to me and asking me to be on your show. This is great. So thank you.
All right, awesome. Yeah, and I'm really glad you did because we're gonna get to hopefully learn a lot about you and what you do. So let's dive right into some things.
Sure.
First, just kind of give us a general overview about what you are right now. So who is Philip Page and Saving Ghosts?
Philip Page is a recent transplant in Pennsylvania from Las Vegas. The whole idea of saving ghosts was I was seeing a lot of people doing paranormal investigations. I was seeing a lot of people who were trying to rattle spirits up, but I wasn't really seeing anyone going out and actually actively trying to cross spirits over. And I've been involved in this work for roughly 20 years, but I've been around it my entire life. And so I decided one day after watching a particular show that I think enough is enough, and I think there needs to be someone to at least try to help any spirits cross over if they can, if they're allowed to, and kind of try to be that voice for help.
Yeah. No, I mean that's good. I mean it's good to be the voice of help, and you are doing some good work for some people out there. Just take a quick second. Already at the beginning of the show, we've got a lot of people that's popped in the chat already.
Cool.
So that's really cool. My wife, of course, she's saying hey to everyone. We got is it Poppin' Fizz 22, Gina Miller, of course,
Okay,
Gina
yeah.
Miller, Leslie Smith. And Vicky Southall, Rose Raven Lily. So hi everybody. I'm glad to see you already popped in the chat. So again, if you guys have questions along the way, feel free. Like I told you guys, this is a show that you can participate in. Philip's on the show today, so this is a chance for you guys to rack his brain as well. So you had mentioned kind of a little bit about being involved in paranormal for many years. What actually kind of got you started? What got you interested in the paranormal?
It wasn't, it's funny. It wasn't one of those deals where all of a sudden I had seen a show or a movie and I thought, oh, hey, this would be cool. I was having experiences when I was a kid. When I was 5, I remember seeing things. And, when you're 5, you have really no understanding of the world. So you just accept it for what it is. But as I got older, especially into my early teen years, there was a lot of activity that was taking place. My mom, for example, thought that she would see me somewhere when I was actually in another part of the house, or people would hear hear me calling their name at night when I was asleep, or I would hear footsteps around me or in the kitchen. So there was always something that was going on. And it was directly involved with me, and I didn't understand it. I didn't know what it was because I was raised in a household that was pretty staunch Pentecostal Christian, and so of course, as far as and I don't mean to sound like I'm pointing fingers at any type of faith or religion. I'm simply speaking from my own experience.
Right.
My experience from I just want to make that very clear. My experience from the church that I was raised in was, well, if you're talking to spirits, you're talking to demons. So I was scared. I was terrified, and so I had said, I don't want to play anymore. I'm done. And it stopped for many, many years until I moved to Portland, Oregon in 2000. And I was in a bad relationship at the time. I one night I heard this voice in my left ear. I say night, it's about 4 o'clock in the morning. And it was this deep, see if I can do it without choking myself. It was this deep, guttural voice that said, "Wake up, Philip. It's time to play." scared the crap out of me. Scared the ever-loving crap out of me. So I jumped out of bed, sat in a nearby chair. She got up, and she was asking what was going on, and I told her exactly what had happened. And so it was at that moment I knew that there was something. I knew that there was something more than what I had been taught, than what I had thought. And I knew that I had to educate myself more. And so that's really what persuaded me to delve heavily into it. And there was a lot of experimentation. There was a lot of mess ups. And even though I've been in it this long, I'm still learning. And this is one of those things, that I've always said that anybody who claims they know everything about it, run, because you can't. You can't know everything about it. You're not going to know until it's your time, So in a nutshell, that's what really projected me to get into understanding not just the paranormal, but just spirit in general.
Right. Oh yeah, I mean, and that's pretty incredible that you had those experiences at an earlier age and things like that, and I myself have started out kind of young, curious, things like that, and I don't know if it was as direct as some of the experiences that you had. So it took me a little bit, a little more toward my teenage years, but also, so we got a couple questions already.
Okay.
I think one, Vicky Southall says, Philip, how is Batman going?
Hey, Vicky. It's going very, very well. What she is referring to, I do voice work on the side, and I've been cast as Lego Batman for a project that's being worked on. And it was something that I had mentioned on the I believe the Saving Ghost Facebook page a while ago. Just kind of, hey guys, here's what's going on. And so it was a lot of work at first, and then it started taper off because it was getting towards the end of the project. Then they would get a hold of me again for some pickup work or some additional lines, and it's kind of an ongoing process. So no, it's going well. It's going well. I'd like to do more of it.
That's cool. And Sean Carter asked, where did you get your education?
Well, all of my education was in Las Vegas. I graduated, as far as my high school goes, I graduated from a school called Southern Nevada Vocational Technical Center, and
it's a mouthful.
Yeah, it really is. It was one of the few Votechs at the time, and so I graduated from there. With television production, I put off college. I wanted to go to see if I can get the name right, the University of Arts College in California, and I wanted to study animation. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. And so I got angry and threw a fit, and I'm not ever going to go to college, and put it off until my 30s. And anybody who has ever tried to go to college while working full time, they know how hard it is. And so at the time, the only school that was around where I could do that was the University of Phoenix. And so my undergrad is psychology and business management, and then I got my master's in business administration.
Nice. That's a lot more than me. I dropped out. I went to community college, and it was so stupid because I had it for free. My grandmother, actually, she went back to college in her 40s, like late 40s, and my grandparents raised me, so I actually had community college for free. And like an idiot, I went in for like 3 weeks, and I wanted to learn and get into this new thing that was starting to be out there called video games. And I thought, man, that could be a pretty cool job to make video games. But I dropped out because I actually was doing some programming, like early programming back in the day.
Okay.
And I dropped out like an idiot. And then, of course, now look at the video game industry, right? But anyways, that's just a little side thing. We had some other people. I think Amy Goodnight popped in there. She said, hey, Phil.
Hey, Amy.
And then Poppin' Fizz said, who does your hair? It looks amazing.
What hair? I gotta comb it forward to make it look like I've got something.
I know. I'm trying to get my hair cut. See, it's so opposite, right? Jeez.
I'll
This
tell you what.
virus thing,
Whatever you cut off, give to me. I can use it.
right? I'll just ship it to you.
Hey, you know what? Done deal.
Bob Fountain popped in. Hey, he said he made it. Bob Fountain's a good guy.
Hey, Bob.
Sean Carter, who asked the question earlier about your education, he's been on the show earlier. In fact, he was the guy I was telling you about when you and I had privately talked about spiritual warfare. He's a pastor, really good guy. So enjoy that. So we got a lot of people out there. So guys, again, great question so far. And I'm glad to see you guys are having fun. So let's keep it rolling. So let's dive in a little deeper here with the premises of what you like to do. And I noticed that you are interested in sort of science and proving ghosts and things like that. So if you could, maybe you could elaborate a little bit on, what kind of approaches and what things that you like to do and what you plan on doing, those type of things.
Well, it's funny. All of us at some point or another have seen these paranormal shows, and we've seen people running around with a K2 meter or with the PSB7 or some sort of tech device. And the argument from either skeptics or in general just the outside world is these aren't real scientific devices, this isn't real science, blah, 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 blah. And I got to thinking about that. And I thought, well, okay, fundamentally, if everything is created from the atom, there's got to be more to that. So I started delving into it. And disclaimer, I am not a scientist. I am not, a cast member of the Big Bang Theory. None of that.
That's okay. I'm not either.
But to me, there seemed some fundamental basics that seem to make sense. Now, I'll segue just a little bit here, going back into my undergrad in psychology. When we talk about the science of it, to me, my understanding, as limited as it truthfully may be, we are a biological system that's powered by an energy source. This has been proven. Biology itself tells us that we are made up of carbons and proteins, and that we are powered by an electrical source, that just the snaps in the brain alone will fire signals back and forth telling the body what to do. Thermodynamics tells us that energy doesn't die, it moves on. We can measure electromagnetic radiation coming off of a person's body in the form of heat. We know that happens. We know that's an energy transference. We know that is tied in with thermodynamics. And then we have quantum physics and quantum theories that are saying now that consciousness is pure energy. And so again, if everything from air to the chair that you're sitting on is all the same on the quantum level, from the atomic level, then once this stuff dies off, to me it just makes sense that the energy is still there, that it will transfer, it will move on, but it's still there. And so in yoga has taught for centuries that you are not the body. And so it to me, it just...
Namaste.
Hey, there you go. To me, it just seems to make sense. And there's, and I'm actually looking to join this organization. There's the Parapsychological Association, the American Parapsychological Association, that's made up of scientists and doctors and people who are fairly well respected in their industries, who are studying these phenomena, who are putting their biases aside in regards to their own field, and they're working together to get a better understanding of this, and to where before science wouldn't do that. Anyone who studied biology would think that anyone who studied thermodynamics was, an idiot for the most part. It's probably not the right word to say, but there was a conflict within the scientific community. However, for this group, and anybody can look it up, it's the American Psychological Association, not psychological, but parapsychological.
Right.
They're studying this stuff. And so that is the direction that I'm going into, is realizing that these are people that their body has died off. They are still there. Some of them might not know what's going on. Some of them may realize that they died, but maybe they've stuck around to help someone who's grieving. Maybe they were a suicide and they have their own reasons for staying around. Maybe they're not allowed to move on. Maybe there's something they have to learn. And so my approach is, if you're stuck, if you don't know what to do, here's something you can try. I can't promise you anything. I can't promise you that guides or archangels or whoever is going to allow you to move on. But here's something you can try, and maybe if you can't move on, they can educate you so that you can know what to do. It's all theory. Right. It is all theory. I am not claiming in any way, shape, or form that my approach is correct. It's a theory, and right. I figure if it's coming from a place of respect, coming from a place of love and truly wanting to help, I don't know, maybe I'll end up getting my butt kicked. Who knows? But, when you have responses that come back that say, we love you, or say help, or there was this one that I did. I was getting to the end of the session, and I had asked the archangels to please make sure the doors are closed as the souls leave. And there was a response that came back that said, we are. And so it was a direct communication. As far as I'm concerned, it was a direct communication. So I think I kind of went a long-winded way around answering your question, so I apologize for that.
Oh, that's okay.
But hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of where I'm at and what I am hoping to do.
Absolutely. And it also sounds like, in all honesty, what you were also referring to is that sometimes just trying to do some kind of help is better than doing nothing at all.
Right.
So, and that's awesome. To catch up on some comments, Leslie Smith says, and Phil, she said, I cannot put in the words what Phil did for me. I'm beyond honored to call him my friend. So then they said, Vicky asked if you were still making angel boxes.
Am I still making angel boxes? This one is going to be going out. This is the next one to go out. Gentleman has been waiting about 2 weeks for it. I'm waiting on some male DC plugs to come in. Thank you, Amazon and COVID-19. I appreciate you and your slow response time.
Right.
But that's a whole other topic right there. But yes, I am.
Okay.
I am.
And I guess, with some of the folks that aren't familiar with your Angel Box or Angel mm-hmm. Phone or Trinity and things like that, mm-hmm. why don't you, if you would, take a moment, kind of explain some of that for our people. You can even show your Angel Box again if you want. It's a good demo. So, but yeah, if you want to just kind of explain a little bit about what it is and with your creation and mm-hmm. what inspired you, just what is it about the Angel series that you really love?
Well, let me put a disclaimer out there first that I am by no means the first person to come up with some sort of a device to help improve communication. It's been going on long before I came along, and there are people on YouTube who have developed devices as well. But what I wanted to do, yes, I wanted to improve communication. Yes, I wanted to, in fact, where is anybody who has gotten into this field, whether they're brand new to it or they've been into it for a while, they have one of these. They have a PSB7 Spirit Box. This is a standard. I swear by these things. I have had some of the best responses out of this little $60 radio.
I know. I've got the 11, though.
Show off.
Nice. Well, everybody had the PSB7, so we're like, let's just get this 11. So
I actually would like to. I'm actually curious as to how the 11, how you like it. Now, I mean, I want to finish answering the question too, but I am curious about the 11. But everybody, their biggest complaint was the scanning noise. And if I may, for 1 second, exactly.
Yeah, my wife hates it.
Yeah, we all know that sound.
Uh-oh.
Right there, right? We all know that sound. And when you are, and the only way you can really properly use one of these is to have an external speaker, because the speaker that's built into this, it's you need an external speaker.
Yeah.
And so when you have it amplified, that scanning noise, it's irritating. I mean, it really is. And so the idea of the devices, one of them is to cut out that scanning noise. For anybody who's using a scanning radio, it doesn't have to be the PSP7, it could be any scanning radio.
Right.
The other part of it is to add a little bit of reverb, because again, if you have ever used one of these, or if you've used an app, you know that when you're listening to the responses in real time, they're quick, they're fast, and you can't always make out what's being said. You should always go back and review your footage anyways, but if you're trying to improve that live, in the moment communication, you got to have those words extended, so that's where the reverb comes in.
Right.
Now, I do use now that's kind of the basis foundation for all of the devices. Each one gets a little more specific after that. The Angel box, the small one, it uses a piezoelectric crystal. Now, the thing about piezoelectric crystals is that when they are squeezed, they release a little bit of energy. Again, I'm not making this up. Anybody can research it if they want to. And so I do use wrapped and squeezed piezoelectric crystals that are wrapped around and tied into the electrical components, and to help improve that communication just a little bit more. Right. Now on the Angel phone, there's a couple other things that are going on. Now this is mine, so it's going to be a little bit different, but the basis is that you have an internal EM pump. Now, a lot of people love EM pumps. I like EM pumps to help release electromagnetic energy, to help improve. I'm sorry, my brain is working faster than my mouth, but to help boost that spirit energy. Yeah. Exactly. And so it has, just a little EM pump inside of it with a rare earth magnet attached to it. And the thing about it is that it's not an electric EM pump. It is old school. It's old school motors and gears and all that fun stuff, but it still uses the piezoelectric crystal in the antenna, but also feeds down into other stones and crystals as well for protection and for boosting communication. It can still do the cutting out the scanning noise, adding reverb and all that stuff, but right. It just has a little bit more to it. Now, mine, I added gold because in sessions, some of my earlier sessions, I kept getting gold through my sessions. A man was coming through and saying gold. And so I thought, well, okay, we'll add some gold to it. And because it's a conductor as well. So yeah, that's kind of the basis. And then with the Trinity box, it's the alignment of the crystals that are on top. And I did the John F. Kennedy session with the Trinity box, and I will tell you, I was pretty blown away. I wasn't quite sure how that session was going to go, but they acknowledged the bubble top, that he ignored the top, and then they said that he saw the red, which made me think, well, maybe he saw his own blood splatter. I hate to be morbid, right? But saw saw what was happening as it was happening, which, if anybody has any ounce of empathy for anybody, and you can just imagine what that's like, I mean, my God. It's horrible. So, yeah. But that's the basis of the boxes. They're made to be portable. They're made to be battery operated, and more importantly, they're made to be affordable. Because when I was looking for devices, $600 on up, and honestly, that's what pushed me into making my own. Was I was not going to pay $600 for something, and I figured I can just make my own. And so
Hey.
that's what happened there.
No, that's awesome. And we're waiting for our Angel phone, so that's going to be awesome. We can't wait to get ours, so we're going to use it. In fact, we've got a case that we got coming up. We're going to hopefully be able to showcase your Angel phone in the video as well. Hopefully that'll help in the investigation. Again, I think everything's a tool. Ghosts respond to different tools, so it's nice to have a good arsenal of tools. Kind of going back here in comments. Let's see. We got a lot of comments tonight. It's awesome. So let's see. Now we got Rose Raven. So there's a lot of people commenting. I'm not going to read everyone. We're going to go through some questions here. It said, hey, it's Kel. What was your worst experience during a session?
I would say probably my worst session. And it wasn't even a session, it was an investigation that I was doing with Gina and Curtis, for anybody who has seen the full investigations. I want to say it was our third investigation. And there was something about the back bedroom that just freaked me out. If you are involved in this work in any way, shape, or form, in my opinion only, let me make that very, very clear. In my opinion only, it is vital that you pay attention to how you are feeling in any given situation.
Oh, yeah.
The house was very much split. It was the Vineyard Vine episode. That was the name of the street, Vineyard Vine. The house was very much split because there was a husband and wife that lived with her mom. Now, on the one side of the house where the mom stayed, everything was decorated in angels and crosses and religious figures. On the left side of the house where they stayed, because they were very much into sci-fi and horror movies and things like that, and you and I have talked, and we both know what it's like to be a sci-fi fan, just saying. But you go into that back room, and there was a heaviness there. And I was about to go back. I had a night vision camera. I was about to go back, and something made me stop in my tracks. I could feel something just crawling up my back onto the back of my neck. I felt my shoulders go up, and I stopped in my tracks. I said, I can't do this. I can't do this. I could care less about likes or ratings or whatever when it comes to things like that. I'm not going to push myself into something if something does not want me there.
Right.
So when we got through and we started working on the edit, there's an EVP that comes through, and it says, oh, what was it? It was back away or stay away or something like that. It was this deep guttural voice, back away, and it would just happen to coincide with how I was feeling, but I didn't hear that at the time. And so when you're sitting there in a room with about this much lighting and you're editing and you got headsets on and then you hear that, it made me take the headsets off. I had to get up. I had to walk around a little bit. Oh, yeah. I had to shake it off because what it did was that it confirmed what I had felt at the time.
Right.
So yeah, that one kind of freaked me out, both when it was happening and then after the fact in the edit.
Oh, and I could easily see that too, and that's a great point to bring up, and it's something I always try to pass to people too. I think we've talked about on this show other times. Is when you're reviewing that evidence, and you do hear those things, like you get the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, and it's the moments we kind of live for in a way. Though it's creepy sometimes, some things, but also to your point. One of the things that most investigators will agree on is what's the best instrument that you have in any investigation, and that's yourself. So listen to yourself, listen to your things. So those are really good points to that. Perfect examples. I think, let's see, we got like I said, a lot of comments in there. I think Bob wanted to pass on that he loves doing. He's got a lot of toys, a lot of tech. He buys a lot of the SpectralTech.org. He said there's not much difference in the 11 versus 7. So just letting you
Thank you.
I wanted to pass that on.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Let's see. And Gino talks about having an instructional video to show you how to use your Angel Box.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we got a lot of comments. I was trying to see if there's any other questions here. I think Vicky said something about Evan recognized your voice and saying hello.
Oh, hello. Hi.
And hi, Phil. Okay, this is Amitav Paranormal Investigations. I think I said that right. Hi, Phil. First of all, you are amazing. I watched all your videos on YouTube. I had the chance to use your Angel Box. I was getting the number 13th a lot.
Okay.
13th. I don't know if it's supposed to be 13th or 13, but 13th coming a lot. What can it be? Okay. Maybe it's my lucky number?
It could be honestly 101 different things. I don't want to pretend like I know, because if anyone is getting any kind of responses, it's either going to be, and this is not set in stone by any means, but it could be involved with the area that they're in. It could be a message to the person who's conducting the session. It could be a number of things, and without having heard that live and having follow-up questions, it's impossible to say. It really is impossible to say. Right. And then if you get into numerology, you can say, well, 13, 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 has a specific meaning in numerology. In regards to angel numbers, and so it could really be a lot of different things.
Right, exactly, and I would concur with that too, and especially in the world of paranormal, you develop your intuition a lot, especially the more you do these things.
Right,
you develop that intuition. So if you are listening or if you're having a session, like when Philip does the sessions, he's also gained a lot of intuition, things like that. Or like I said, any of us investigators, when you're out in the field enough, you gain that intuition and you kind of know all the different inputs, the things that you're saying. You kind of start feeling out those situations, and you can kind of pick up on what some of those may or may not mean. And then sometimes you're just like, I don't know. I don't know what those mean. They just throw random things out to you, whether they're messages or whether they're supposed to mean something, and we just don't know how to decipher it. It can always be those things. My wife's thanking everybody for being here. I'm glad to see again that everybody's here. Hopefully you guys like my show as well, and you guys stick around. This is a good community, so we all like to back each other up and support each other. And Vicky said, did you get rid of your possible attachment before you moved? Looked like it was getting serious.
It's weird. When I was in, excuse me, when I was younger, when we first started this conversation, I had an attachment that I believe was brought on by my then stepdad. Got rid of it. Life moved on. Started getting, more into this work. And it was actually once I moved here, I don't believe I have an attachment per se, but I have noticed that there's been a difference in the responses that I'm getting. In Vegas, I was able to get direct responses. I was able to get answers to what I was looking for. For example, in the King Henry session that I did, I was able to get direct responses about beheadings and things like that. Here, I don't know if it's just because the area is older, there was a lot more that happened here, but I am getting a lot. The responses are not as friendly in a lot of cases. And I laid down some boundaries with that. But I think when I did that kind of, when you're in high school, there's always the jock who says, okay, you're telling me I can't do something? let's do it then. And I think that's kind of what's going on right now. And the thing is, my experience, purely my experience, whenever there is something like that that's approaching you, you can't show fear, you can't be scared, because ultimately we have control over what happens to us, what we allow to happen to us. I believe in universal laws, law of attraction, so forth and so on. And so I'm trying to figure out a proper way to really answer this question. Nuts and bolts, I don't believe I have an attachment right now, but I do believe that I am keeping certain things at bay that are trying to test the waters, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, and look, sometimes with attachments it can be a little tricky. I would say I've had an attachment only a couple times in my life, and usually it was pretty quick. I was able to ditch that off pretty quick. A lot of times you can usually physically feel that. Sometimes you can't. Who knows? But also we got Poppin' Fizz was basically, he wasn't sure if we really, back when we talked about it, when I asked you when you get, when you first got into this, but he said he wasn't sure if we covered your first experience. And he said, Phil, I know we've talked on you going back when you were a kid, but what was your first experience? What was the very first thing that ever happened to you?
I would say my very first experiences, the first one that I can recall anyway, I was maybe 5, 6, right around there. And I remember being in bed, and I would wake up, and I would, just kind of look at my pillow just because it was right there. And I don't know if it was because I was half asleep or a child's imagination, or if it was really going on or what, but I saw standing on my pillow just this little tiny, like, glowing figure. And it seemed like it was female, and seemed very comforting. And I remember, looking at this little, thing and laughing and thinking how cool this is. During that time, I would also wake up in different parts of the bed, meaning I'd wake up at the foot of the bed outside of the covers, or I'd wake up on the floor, so I don't know if I was sleepwalking or what was going on. But there were a lot of those type of experiences that were going on when I was very, very young. It wasn't until, I want to say, once we moved into the house after that one, that things really started to pick up. And that's when I was hearing footsteps in the kitchen, or I was hearing, how when you're barefoot walking on carpet, how it still makes, there's a little sound that goes along with that. I would be in my room at night, and I would hear someone walking on the carpet in my room. And so just things like that. But the earliest one, I would have to say, would be that little glowing figure that I saw on my pillow when I was about 5 or 6.
Yeah. And I mean, it didn't sound like it really scared you.
Mm-mm. No, it was comforting, as a matter of fact. I wasn't scared at all of it.
Now let's see if I can Titanican. I'm like tit. Okay, now we're gonna get rated. We're gonna get pulled off. We're gonna get pulled off YouTube for this name. No, Titanican says, "Have you ever experienced a poltergeist?"
Not in the classic sense. When we think of, okay, I'm actually happy that this question was asked, because Hollywood and TV and certain shows on the Travel Channel have made the general public believe certain things about the paranormal. That if you have a a, um, a poltergeist, for example, that you're gonna wake up one day and all the chairs are gonna be stacked up in the middle of the room, or from your kitchen, or plates are gonna start flinging out of the and I'm not saying that hasn't ever happened. It's never happened to me. The only thing that has happened to me, and it wasn't even to me, it was just kind of a hey, heads up, here we are type of thing. Um, it was in that same house that I was talking about, where I was hearing the footsteps in the kitchen. I was watching TV one night with the family, and we heard this bang in the garage. So I went out to go take a look, and what had happened? We had shelves in the garage, and there was a tin that was originally in the very back of the shelf with boxes in front of it. Well, I saw it on the floor. Something picked it up, threw it into the middle of the garage floor, and it hit the back wall or the garage door. And so there was that. But there's nothing violent per se that has ever happened to me.
Right. And for some of those that, again, the definitions that we use in the world of paranormal, they're fairly black and white, but there's a lot of circumstances that can be considered gray area too. And then Hollywood doesn't help when they throw around terms loosely and those type of things. Obviously originally poltergeist meant noisy ghost, it was German for noisy ghost. So really that could mean a lot of things, really. I mean, if you just had a ghost clanking doors and whatever, it still could be an intelligent haunting, but you could call it poltergeist. But over time, when they did research, one of the researchers back in the 70s, they really referred more of a poltergeist as more of the energy, psychokinetic energy that manifests these like unintelligent spirits, so to speak.
Right.
So the best way you could probably think about it, Titanican, is poltergeist would be that unintelligent haunting, so to speak, where you may be having these objects move, things like that, but you cannot seem to get intelligent responses with EVPs, things like that. That's usually how, in my experience anyways, what a poltergeist seems to be classified as. I mean, would you agree with that, Philip?
I would. I would, because I've had direct responses through noises that I have asked for. If you are here, knock once for yes, and I would hear a tap. So technically, because there was a noise made, you could call it a poltergeist. But to what you were saying, it was in my opinion, it was an intelligent response, because I would say tap once for yes, twice for no, and even with the K2 meter, I'll do kind of the same thing. If you are here, let me know, make all the lights flash. If the answer is no, leave it alone.
Right.
So, yeah, and we do have to. We should not be using, and I'm just saying this as a blanket term, Hollywood or TV, any of the ghost chasing shows per se, as gospel without doing our own research. I highly recommend everybody do their own research and become a little more informed in regards to what really is going on. Right.
And I would take a moment. Again, I want to take a moment for all you guys in the chat out there. Thank you so much for your participation tonight. Keep it up. Keep the comments coming in. Keep the questions coming in. I think it's definitely adding that new dynamic for Philip today. He gets to really be in the hot seat a little bit for you guys. I'm not even giving him the hard questions. You guys are giving him the hard questions, I think. I don't know.
Let's do it.
But Philip, I would definitely say back to you. When this is all said and done, you're going to have to rewatch this and click like and subscribe. I'm just kidding. But you're going to have to watch this when you're done. And you're going to have to – no, you really need to see these comments. So there's a lot of great comments on here from people. So you need to read through there and definitely – because I can't read all these. So but there's a lot of great comments. I'm trying to at least do the ones that are, direct messages or questions for you. One of them, Bob Fountain has a question. He says – and this is interesting. This is interesting. And I know Bob loves to put these out there. So he says, what do you think would happen if you ask your Christian God for protection, but the entity attaching to you was Buddhist?
Well, we are assuming that I am still believing in only the Christian God. Here's my thing. I've studied Buddhism. I've studied Hinduism. I've studied Muslim. I've studied Judaism. I grew up in a Christian-based, Pentecostal family. However, what it taught me was that there's more out there to learn. So my view of God might be a little bit different. In fact, I know it's a little bit different than most people. I feel that we as humans assign a denomination to God. And I think we also assign our own limitations to God. So, me personally, I would not believe that God is Christian or Buddhist or what have you. To me, God is energy, God is consciousness. And, if we're going to start, if we're going to delve into scripture a little bit, an oldie but a goodie is that we are created in the likeness of God. I believe that energy, that consciousness, which is God, is what makes us as well. And therefore, once we leave this body and we go back, we're connected to spirit again in regards to God. So for me, there wouldn't be an issue personally, because there's a lot about Buddhism that I love. I spent 4 years in southern Vietnam, and half of them, it's either half Buddhist or half Catholic there. And I spent time in the temples, and I spent time with Buddhist monks, and I absolutely loved it. I studied the spiritual side of yoga for many, many, many years. And actually studying that, the Yoga Sutras, helped me understand Western Christianity a little bit better. And so I wouldn't expect God to belong to any specific denomination. And so I wouldn't be surprised. I know that sounds a little egotistical, and I'm sorry for that. I don't mean for it to come out that way, but I have no religious expectations as far as denomination goes with God.
Right. And, in all honesty, Bob said, hey, good answer. He said that, of course, Bob, he's a metaphysical minister. So
okay.
But he said good answer, so that's good.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Vicky just said the higher power. And Rose Raven Lily said, what's the crying voice I always hear on Necrophonic? Could it mean someone needs help? I never get a response. I understand you probably can't give me an answer, but just wondered what you thought.
Well, I get that from time to time myself. Here's the thing about the Necrophonic. The Necrophonic was developed, I believe, by was Josh Weldon, I believe is his name. And it uses sounds. So my understanding is that there are not any direct words in the Necrophonic, that it's giving you sounds, f, the, ger, things like that. And enough of a bass so that spirit can come in, take that noise, and then create words based off of that. My experience is with any app, and sometimes with the PSP7, is that kind of view yourself as a convenience store. And maybe you're trying to reach just one specific type of clientele. That's all you want. But once those doors open up, everybody's going to come in. Everybody's going to want to buy something off of you. So whenever you're using an app like the Necrophonic, it could be anything. That crying voice could be anything. It could be someone asking for help. It could be just one of the sounds that's put in so that spirit can get a hold of it if they have to at some point to use that to help form words. Until we get a direct response saying what it is, we really aren't going to know.
Right. Yeah, and let's see. Titanican said, if I bought one of your spirit boxes, is it compatible with Apple products? Because that's all they own.
It is these devices. They are compatible with anything that has a 3.5 millimeter headphone plug, and that is just a standard mini plug. It's anything that is. Where's it at? There we go. That size will fit into it.
Yeah.
So yeah, Apple products work.
All right. And Sean Carter said, have you ever caught, and this is another theoretical question, I think it's pretty cool. You're getting the good ones tonight, man. Sean said, have you ever caught an astral projecting spirit with your box, and how do you know you have?
I don't know if I have, because, for one, I never thought to ask. Two, from what I have listened to through the footage, none of the responses have led me to believe that that's the case. However, if we're talking theory, there's absolutely no reason why it couldn't happen. So I wish I had a better answer for you than that. But tell you what, in one of my next sessions, I'll ask if there's anybody here who is astral projected. Let's see what we get. Let's have fun with it.
Hey, that sounds pretty good. Because I honestly, I never thought about it either. I actually never thought about that, but
yeah,
it makes you wonder. Because how many people really are astral projecting? And if they are astral projecting, are they really in that same spiritual plane? I don't know.
Right. We get, and I'm just as guilty of this. We get tied up into the, these are probably earthbound spirits, and they're needing help, and and
right.
We don't think sometimes that maybe it's someone who's just taking a vacation from their body for a moment, and they're just popping by to say, hey, So I'm gonna ask on one of my next sessions. I'll ask. Let me write that down actually, because that's good.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's actually
stuff.
really good.
That's good.
Thank
good
you
question,
for that.
Sean. Yeah, and also, while he's writing that down, I want to say too, if you think about it, if you're astral project, let's just say you are astral projecting. I don't personally astral project. I may have started to a few times, but in any case, if you are, it's possible that if you think you're communicating with a spirit, but it's somebody like Philip saying, hey, do you have a message? Or it could be you think it's a spirit asking you a question when it's actually like a spirit box session going on. That's pretty cool thought. It is that reversal. Sean, of course, said lots of folks are projection. Leslie Smith said, what is astral projection? Amy Goodnight said fifth dimensional souls. Vicky said, I astral project a lot. Shadow Vixen said, hey, great show. But astral projection, do you want to take this one, Philip? Since you're the guest.
Oh, well, I thank you, sir. In a nutshell, there's a couple of different theories flying around as to the specifics of it, but in a nutshell, astral projection is putting yourself in a state. Usually it's when the brain has hit the theta waves that your being, your spirit, is allowed to escape from the body and basically move around freely in the spirit world. There are some believe that there's a golden cord that connects the spirit to your body. There's others that believe that your body gets filled with the white protecting light. There's very, very varying thoughts as far as the specifics go, but the idea is that you can leave your body protected in most cases and travel around the spirit world, travel around the universe, go into different dimensions and explore. Would you on just a very basic level, wouldn't you kind of say that's?
Yeah, that's about it. It's that in a nutshell. With astral projection, it's really trying to, because it all falls in tune with frequencies, right? And our brain waves like alpha and theta and stuff like that. And it's all about getting in the right almost like getting in tune with your frequency, so to speak, your spiritual frequency, and training yourself to leave your body, not so much fall asleep, actually go into a state where you're a self-induced state where you're able to hyper focus into your frequencies, leave your body, and explore various levels or realms, like you said, dimensions, things like that. So yeah, I mean, that's really, like you said, it's about everything in a nutshell. That's the easiest way to say astral projection. Some people, they enter like a sleep paralysis. So a lot of times astral projection and sleep paralysis is associated with each other. So if you suffer from sleep paralysis, guess what? You may be also doing some astral projection. So,
which I had that a lot as a kid. It scared the crap out of me. But you touched on something that I'd like to just piggyback on real quick. And you're talking about frequencies. Our inner being, our spirit, whatever you want to call it, vibrates at an extremely high, frequency. And there's actually what's the term? There's a sheet that you can download that it tells you what each emotional frequency is, and that your higher frequency depending on your emotion. So that's why it's so important to pay attention to your emotions. There's also a thing called binaural beats that if you listen to, it plays at a certain frequency, about 432 hertz, which is said to be the frequency of the universe. And so if you listen to that long enough, it'll put you in a meditative state to where the brain waves are matching that. It boosts your vibration, which if you want to astral, that's usually the best time to start doing it.
Now, they also said, Pop and Fizz said, is that the same as out-of-body experience?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I think anytime you leave your body, in my opinion, I think that's an astral projection. I mean, if you... Yeah, I mean, that's just me.
I know. I would agree with that. I would think if we're going to start, kind of splitting hairs as to what the difference would be, that perhaps, now please, anybody correct me if I'm wrong, that perhaps astral projection would, no, that can't be right. I was going to say astral projection maybe could be more of a self-induced thing that you're planning on doing it, to where out-of-body experience is your inner being saying, oh, hey, wait, hold on, this has got to happen, and then it's out for a second. I don't know. That's actually a good question. I don't have an answer for that, really.
I would speculate and just say, I think they're one and the same, but I think how they get there is different. Like kind of what you were saying. Yeah. It's like astral projection is something you kind of mean to do in a way. Out of body, I don't think you really mean to do it. It's something, but I think in the way it's still the same thing. Whenever, your body is made of body, spirit, and soul, right? So anytime your spirit and soul leave your body like that, it's, to me, whether it's out of body or in your sleep or whatever, if you are leaving your body, that's astral projection. You're leaving your body.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
That's what I would say anyways. OBE is when the body is dying. That's what Sean said. He said OBE is when the body is dying. I don't know. I mean, is that true? Well, I mean, out-of-body experience, have we had them when we're not dying, though? See, that's the thing. Well,
here's the thing, and this is where it can really start getting tricky, because just like politics and just like religion, we start getting into personal preferences. We start getting into personal beliefs. And so this is the area where I don't feel anyone is wrong. I don't feel anyone is right. It's whatever is true for you. If it's true for you, if it holds true for you, then who am I or anybody else to say you're wrong? No. So, so this is definitely kind of, tiptoeing into that area of perception, personal experience, personal belief.
Sure. And, and what you guys got here, too, is, look, you've got a couple experts on here. And the thing is, I throw that term out loosely because experts in the world of paranormal, I mean, it's just seasoned vets, right? Bob Fountain out there in the chat. Sean Carter, even, he's been out involved in things, even though, again, he's a pastor. He's still spiritual warfare. There's and other people in the chat. Some of them are seasoned. So we're just a couple people up here speculating and going off on these theories, and
Right.
and that's what I love. That's why I love this. That's why I love live show format, folks. You guys make it awesome. So what else do we got? We all kinds of stuff, Phil. All kinds of stuff. All right. So Bob said, I was once asked if ghosts can see each other. If one is vibrating at a different frequency, it would not see the other one. So, I mean, it's possible. I don't know if there's. I would say that, again, one of the basis that I talk about, and even in my book when I talk about A Guide to the Spirit Realms, when I talk about spirit realms, I also talk about different frequencies. So I do think that there may be a separation of certain types of spirits based on whoever set that criteria, if whatever you want to believe in. And I think that they can exist on different frequencies. So there may be certain ghosts that can't see each other. There may be some that can. So that's just my little quick thing.
Well,
what do you think, Phil?
let's play with this a little bit. Okay, so we know, because it's been measured, that the human body vibrates at a certain rate. We know that speech is carried on between about 80 to 200, 250 megahertz. So we know that there are wavelengths, we know that there are frequencies that we as humans are vibrating at. Someone who is vibrating at a lower vibration, meaning that maybe they're always in a bad mood, or maybe they can never see the good in anything, compared to someone who's vibrating at a higher vibration, meaning that yes, they're always positive, and yes, they can usually see the good in everything, and good things happen to them because of the law of attraction. Like attracts like.
I'm like a medium low, I think.
They can still pass each other. They can still interact, even though they're at different frequencies. But, however, whether or not they decide to stay interacting is a different story. You may have, and this is where I think some attachments come in, you may have that lower frequency who they don't know what it is, but there's something about that higher vibrating entity or person or spirit that they like and they try to attach to. So I think there is a possibility that they can see each other, that they can interact. The likelihood of it, if you're living on the west side of town, are you always going to drive to the east side of town? Probably not. But see, and that's the great thing about this. We don't know. We are not going to know until it's our time and we are there. And
ultimately,
yeah. So, but it is fun to think about.
Oh yeah, and I would say too, like, think about how many times, like, investigators, myself included, have asked how many spirits are there, or how many spirits are present, and they say 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. So they give you a number. So to me, I think that may answer somewhat, right?
Well, no, exactly, because that is one. In fact, there was someone just recently. I don't know if it was on if it was on YouTube or on the Facebook page, but someone had mentioned that, yes, that's the one question that always seems to get answered, is how many are here. Now, I do know from firsthand experience that they do interact with each other and that they do help each other. When we were doing an investigation in an office space, you clearly hear a male spirit trying to help another spirit operate the ITC devices, saying approach it, fly around it, go to the round thing, which was the speaker. And so you can hear direct interaction. We asked who's here, and they listed off at least half a dozen names. And so we do know that they do interact. Now, whether or not they are interacting within their own vibration or not, who's to say?
Yeah. And like, going back in a few more comments, again, a lot of comments. So Leslie says, so you can control the astral projection, but cannot an out-of-body experience, maybe?
That's a good way to look at it.
Possibly.
You could easily look at an out-of-body experience being the result of a couple of different things. Either trauma to the body. We hear of people who go under certain surgeries who have out of body experiences.
I just met one just like that. I just met somebody like that actually just the other day, like talking about seeing his surgery. And anyways, go ahead.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe that is a way to look at it then.
Yeah, I mean, and I told him, I said, "Well, sound like you astral projected," So
yeah,
that's what I said. I went right back to that, but yeah. And let's see. Titanic said, "What is an orb? Is it a soul?"
Oh, okay, orbs. Let's talk about this. Let's do this. The almighty. Exactly. Oh, we're going to have fun.
Yeah.
The biggest, possibly the biggest controversy in the paranormal field. Orbs, yes, no. Here is my personal experience.
You forgot maybe. Yes, maybe. No, maybe.
Right, exactly. To me, okay, if you are to get a night vision camera, let's say, and you are to record snow or dust, it flurries out. It just travels everywhere. Dust, a lot of times, will either travel straight up or straight down, depending on if air is on or not, or again, will flurry out like snow. Bugs, you can, in night vision, you can clearly see the wings. They kind of debunk themselves. Orbs. Here's, again, my personal experience with orbs. I'm not saying that this is scripture. Any light source, any energy source that seems to be moving in an intelligent manner with purpose, you may possibly have an orb, have a spirit right there that's in some way trying to manifest. When the team and I went back to Pahrump, we were in the living room, and I had a gut feeling that I needed to go down a hallway back to the bedroom. Right when I said that, there were two light sources that came down and moved down the hallway. To me, those were orbs. Later on, we went into one of their children's bedrooms, and Gina, who was recording at the time, she said, "Hey, there's something glowing moving towards you." So, of course, we're getting all excited. Hey, we got an orb. No, what it was a lint particle that was floating around, and it reflected the UV light. So, big difference. So we have to be very, very careful that
Right.
not every glowing thing moving around is an orb. When we take a picture, pictures. Oh, let's get this going. When we're taking a picture and we see a glowing ball of something, we need to be objective in what we're looking at, because it could be an orb, it might not be. We have to take a look. Are we aiming towards the sun? There's a thing called lens flare. I know that you know what it is. But there's a phenomenon called lens flare, and what happens is when there's a light source, be it a light bulb, the sun, whatever, when it's traveling through the different spectrums of the lens, it creates a round glowing ball. And a lot of people have mistaken those for orbs when all it is lens flare. So we have to be very careful with what we're looking at. We have to analyze either the picture or the video just to make sure that we're not getting excited over the moment.
Right. And spirit orbs is my least favorite subject. It really is, because I just hate them with a passion. And I don't mean that personally to any spirit orbs out there, but it's like, man, it's just because there's so much dust, so much bugs, so much stuff. I see it all the time.
Right.
And it's just like a go-to for so many paranormal investigators. It's like, in all honesty, I'd rather have more evidence than that, to be honest with you. I'm sorry, even if it really is something. So, no offense to anybody out there, but I just need a little more than what because it's just so hard to explain those. So hard, and you're right, lens flares, dust, all that.
Well, and there's something that you said when we were talking privately that just holds so true, that you can never have enough evidence to convince a skeptic.
Yeah.
You just can't.
Yeah, I say that every show, I think. Never enough evidence for the skeptic.
Exactly.
And I think Leslie wanted to know, can spirits attach to other spirits? They're diving deep, Philip. They're going deep.
I think anything is possible. Let me just put that out there. I think anything is possible. I think that a lot of what goes on in the spirit world, we mimic in the real world. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, that you could have a spirit that's lower vibration, not meaning that they're bad per se, but they're just lower vibration for whatever reason. And there is a higher vibrational spirit who happens to be trolloping around. And there is something about that higher vibrational spirit that the lower vibrational spirit likes and may want to try to attach. Now, we see that in the form of humans as like energy vampires, for example.
Right.
So I think it's possible. Now, I don't know what the rules are in regards to the spirit world. I don't know if they have their own set of laws that they go by, or if it's if it's a Thunderdome when you get there or what. I don't know. But I think
Thunderdome. They're just all battling out. Winner takes all. There can only be one. There can be only one. They get all the knowledge.
Right, exactly.
But Billy Bones said it best right now, I think. And said, Leslie, I hope not. Right. Because there are some people in this life I certainly don't want to be bothered by in the next.
Well, and I think that once we get there, once we are in pure spirit, I think there's going to be a lot of things that are going to be unlocked for us. There's going to be a lot of knowledge that we're going to know, and I think part of the living experience is learning about all that stuff, the excitement of the experience, because I think that there's a really good chance that once we are in spirit, that a lot of the mystery is gone in regards to what's happening, so as far as having another spirit try to attach to you, I think, I don't know. I don't want to assume one way or another. I would like to think that it would be easier to just through, energy and laws of attraction and so forth and so on, being able to attract to you more of the type of spirit that you want around you, compared to that you don't. I could have worded that better, so I apologize.
That's all right. Well, Leslie, so Leslie also asks, so what are your thoughts on an out-of-body experience being your own conscious looking at you?
Very possible, because again, quantum physics right now is looking at consciousness and saying that it's directly linked to energy and vibration. And again, everything is created from the atom. So if spirit is consciousness, and once we leave this body, that's what that energy source is consciousness, then yeah, it's very likely. Very likely. Again, anything is possible. Yeah. What I suggest is, for people to do their research, and I truly do mean research, and come up with what they feel holds true to them. I think what Leslie just said is very plausible.
Yeah, and I'll take a moment, one moment, for a shameless plug, because I can do that. It's my show. But hey, guys, look, I've got a book. All right, it's called My Paranormal: A Guide to the Spirit Realms, and it is filled with tons of theory and a little bit about myself. So, guys, also, like as if Philip was talking about, if you want to do some research, hey, go read my book. It's on Amazon, ebook, paperback. I just thought I'd throw that out there. I don't like to normally promote my book a whole lot, believe it or not, but since we were talking about it, and on a serious note, guys, seriously, you should do research, education. It's fun to study it anyways, but there's so much out there.
There really is.
Thunderdome, yeah. They love our Thunderdome thing. So Leslie's like, hey, sorry for all the questions. I just love both of y'all's views on this stuff. So that's awesome. Bob said, yeah, it took a long time to convince some of his team to differentiate orbs from other things.
Yeah.
Let's see. They said, how shocking will the life review be when you find out you are really an a-hole? Right? I know that's like if I get up there and they're like, all right, Mr. Morris, let's take a look at your life. Holy. Oh, yeah, I don't know. Like they always say that, like, would you be embarrassed when you review your life?
I there was something that I heard recently. There is a woman out there named Abraham Hicks. Her name is Esther Hicks, but she goes by Abraham Hicks, and does a lot of public speaking. And she was talking about this very topic one time, and her theory was that yes, you do have a life review, but it's not like how I was taught when I was a kid, when I was in the church, that it's a judgment. You were bad or you were good, and then that's going to decipher where you go. Her take on it is that, yes, here's a life review. Let's take a look at the experiences that you've had. Did you enjoy your experiences? Did you learn anything from your experiences? And I kind of liked that. I liked the gentler approach. I liked the what did you get out of your time there approach.
Yeah.
So
Titanican said, this is kind of getting back off that subject, but Titanican said, what got you started making the boxes?
Necessity.
There you go. Necessity. He had to pay his electric bill.
I'm telling you, if you guys have ever priced out some of these devices, they're expensive. Here's the thing. I was looking at the boxes, and I was seeing other people make boxes, and I thought, you know what? I'm kind of a smart guy to a certain degree, and I don't know what the mood of the person was when they made this specific device. So if we believe in energy transference, do I want that person's energy tied into a device that I'm going to be using closely for communication? Also, am I going to like the look of it? Do I like the look of it? Am I willing to pay, the $700 that they want for it? And usually the answer was no across the board. The answer is no. And so, I mean, it's not like I pulled this stuff just out of, pulled it right out. It was, I did research. I saw what other people were doing. I was taking a look at what was available in the market. And, again, my education, my background is in business. And, I'm taking a look at the markup that these people have on these devices, and it's ridiculous. Yeah. Ridiculous. And I thought, well, this isn't fair to the person who is wanting to get into it, who's wanting a device, but can't afford that $700 device.
Right.
Because we're talking about, with some of these, companies, 3, 4, 5,000% markup. And to me, it's price gouging, and it just wasn't fair. So there was a lot of different reasons why I wanted to do it. Plus, just cleaning up the communication. What dawned on me was when we did the Mob Museum investigation, as much as I love the PSB7, what was coming out of that little speaker just wasn't enough. I needed more. And so it was just a combination of all of those things that really convinced me to start making my own.
Well, I'm glad you did, because I also was in that same mindset, and I was looking at like these $800 things, and Phillips is like half that, so, or even less in some cases. Yeah. So that's good. That's helps us who's trying to save a little bit of money and maybe don't want to build it, have another option. And I think they look cool. And that's why we're excited to get the Angel phone. And also, too, like, look. And just to even show you guys, like, I got a whole box down here. Okay? If you can see inside there. But, yeah. Look, that's all the parts for an SLS camera. Okay? Okay, so we do these things as paranormal investigators. Like, yeah, I could probably go and buy the whole thing, but like I said, there's just sometimes you just want to buy the stuff, put it together yourself, and design it how you want or build it like you want and things like that. And try to save a few bucks and here and there. It's expensive, all these gadgets and gizmos, and it can really get costly, and especially certain ones.
Right.
I mean, and it's insane. I mean, have you seen like the music box? Have you seen that? That is insane. Like, it goes for like $300 and some, and it's like a freaking music box with a motion detector on it. It's like, what? $300 for that? Well, and it's cool. Don't get me wrong. There's a creepy element to it.
See, and that's the thing right there. A lot of these devices, I kind of feel are made for the novelty of it. Technically, yes, they can be used, but I mean, let's be honest. Some of these really pretty, fancy, expensive devices, how much do we really need them? How much? What are they going to serve in the overall investigation? That's what I looked at when I was putting my kit together. When I actually had the team, was what? Okay, there was two parts to it. What do we need to actually do the investigation, and what do we need for the purposes of filming the show? Because the cameras, of course, that you're going to use for the investigation are going to be different than the cameras that you use to film the show, so to speak. And we could have gone with motion detectors and all of that, but there's a practical side to it. How much time do we want to spend setting up and tearing down? Right. And I want to be able to get in, do our thing, and then get out with as little of as a footprint as possible.
Right. And I think what you find too, and Philip, I'm sure you probably would back me up on this, is that I think even when you have a wide selection of toys, what's good about it, one, is that you're not going to use every single device you have when you go to an investigation. Right. You kind of have your favorites because you tend to get good results with certain things. So you're going to have your standards. Right. But ghosts don't always react. Spirits, if you will, don't always react to certain things. Some may react well to, talking to or interacting with a K2 meter. Whereas you may have other ghosts that may work really well interacting with, like, say, dowsing rods or something, Right. But it's good to have that selection so that way if you are at an investigation, again, you're not going to use all, but you may say, you know what? I'm not really getting anything with the traditional stuff. Let's break out something else. And you try a few other toys in the bag, so to speak, and then you may start getting some responses. So that's kind of, if for those of you that may be wondering, like, hey, there's so many devices out there. Do I use them all? Do I do all that? Guys, that's really what it's about, is kind of collecting, having that vast array, and then you can kind of pick from it and pick what you need to when you feel it's necessary.
Right. I'd like to piggyback on that real quick and say that if anyone's going to put a kit together, get devices that you feel would be practical for you to use, not just because it looks cool or because it makes a cool sound. And that's a whole different topic altogether. But that devices that you feel are actually going to be useful for you, so that, like you said, if you have to put something away and pull something back out, you have a reason for it. You know exactly what that device is going to do. You know how it's going to perform, and you're not going to pull it out just because you kind of want to show it off. And hey, guys, look how pretty it is. So
look at the lights.
So exactly. So we ultimately do what you feel is best. For me, it's finding devices that I feel are going to be useful during an investigation.
Absolutely. And I want to go back to a question that Leslie had. I don't want it to get lost too far because it's been a little bit. But Leslie did ask, and a lot of people are saying, hey, good question. She said, you mentioned spirits guiding others on how to communicate. Mm-hmm. Can some spirits misguide other spirits, like in an evil manner?
I think it's very possible. Let's say, for example, we have someone who, in this life, for whatever reason, they have decided to end their own life. They move on into spirit. Well, the theory is that the emotion that you had at the time of your death is the emotion that you're going to carry on into spirit. So if that person still has that same emotion going on, that same thought process going on, and there happens to be another spirit there who's, playing the nice guy, so to speak, I think it is possible, because if they were lost and confused in this life and they thought that ending it was going to fix all of that, there's a really good possibility they're going to be just as lost and confused in the afterlife. But it's going to be, I think, like what you were saying, easier for those darker, should we say, spirits to manipulate. So I think it is very possible.
Sure. I would agree with that. I think for sure. And I think we see that a lot. And I always tell people too, don't ever take ghosts really at their face value. I mean, there's so many times you hear a child and it's not a child.
Oh, I'll tell you what, man. Kids and EVPs or through any of these devices, they freak me out, man, because a child very well could be the ultimate manipulation, because we normally view children as being innocent, as being playful, as being sweet and cuddly. And we know that spirits can mimic. That some spirits, if they're not being too nice, can try to deceive. And, so whenever I hear a child come through, I never, ever take it at face value that it's a child,
Right.
And just because, for example, I was doing a session a while ago, and you and I talked about this in private, that I thought I heard Robin Williams come through. He said, "How you doing, Chief?" And in his tone. But if we take a look at voice being energy, again, it's been measured. It's been studied by science. Voice is energy. It carries on a frequency. Frequencies can be mimicked. Frequencies can be copied and duplicated. And so it's easy for a dishonest spirit to do that and try to make you believe something that's maybe not true.
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I would agree. Okay, so Terry Lynn, now let's change some gears here.
Sure.
Because I know we've been so serious. We haven't had a lot of humor tonight. So Terry Lynn said, she said she's still waiting to hear about the most embarrassing event experience during an investigation that you ever had.
Wow, that story is actually kind of dry, I think. I think the closest I had to an embarrassing moment in an investigation. In fact, we actually kept it in the edit. Earlier, I was talking about an investigation that we did in an office building, and it was a two-parter. We had been at this complex for several hours, and Curtis, who was our skeptic, it was his turn to go around and do EVPs and play with the K2, and it was my job at that point to film him. And so we found a hallway to sit down in. He got comfortable. I got comfortable. The heater was broken. I'm sorry, the air conditioning was broken, so it was hot in there. So I was wearing, gym shorts and just a really uncomfortable investigation. Curtis is in the middle of it. He's doing his thing. Hey, we're here. Can you tell me who's here? What's your name? And I had been holding something in for quite some time at this point. And you know that when you when you shift your body certain ways, or when you change positions, sometimes the body has an amazing way to respond to that. And so we're sitting down, and I had adjusted, and right in the middle of his questioning, my lower half of my body decided to be very vocal. Yes, it responded very vocally in the middle of his investigation. And
are there any spirits present? Yes.
So my rather loud flatulence caught him off guard, which got him to laugh, which got me to laugh, which caused me to do it even more. And so we're dying laughing and all this. I'm thinking, while this is happening, I'm thinking, oh my God, am I going to keep this in the edit? Am I not going to keep this in the edit? What am I going to do with this section? And so afterwards, we just decided we were just going to keep it in the edit. So I think that would be my most embarrassing,
And I'm going to put the link down below, guys. So remember, no, I'm just kidding.
Thanks.
No, I mean, and since we're sharing, I've got to share my embarrassing stuff real quick. And but real quick, the biggest thing is, and I don't want to go into too big of a setup, but my wife and I, when we had to go to our very first case where we represented a TV show, we used to do the preliminary cases for ghost hunters for taps in the Panhandle area. So Florida area, Florida Panhandle. And so we, we're all excited. It was our very first case, and we were representing a TV show. We had our, and we show up there. And as we were setting up our equipment, we're getting ready to do our investigation, it dawned on me that I didn't even have an EMF meter. Like, out of all this equipment we had, I did not have an EMF meter. And that was very popular at the time. It was just started to be popular on TV, so everybody was starting to know what the equipment was that investigators used often. So I panicked. And luckily, I had actually had a voltmeter. I had this voltmeter in the truck, and so I had turned it on and held it in my hand and walked around and pretended like I had an EMF meter. And so it was definitely, even though technically I didn't get busted and it wasn't publicly embarrassing, I still using it as a story of self-embarrassment because, hey, we all had to start somewhere, and it was a reputational thing. It's like, I was so mortified that it's like, oh my God, we're supposed to be representing a TV show. Oh my God, I got to have an EMF meter. So, but yes, yours definitely would be the most embarrassing. And what's so funny is you were telling the story, and Bob actually had shared the same thing in the comments about unintentional gas, and people saying, "What's that?" So yeah, that's funny. That is good stuff. All right, I hate saying good stuff. I don't know why I said that. I try not to say that. Like, there's certain things you just accidentally say. That's good stuff. I try actually not to say that. So, all right. So we talked about that, and Billy Bone said, "How often do you have responses in other languages besides English? If when it happened, did it seem like an actual response to you, i.e., answer to a question?"
That's only happened, from what I can recall, one time, and it was a session that I did. Oh, it's only maybe 4 or 5 sessions back. And I was doing a session, and there was a response that came through. I don't know if it was Greek. I don't know if it was Italian. I don't know if it was Romanian. I don't know what it was. But I asked after that, "Whoa, hey, can you speak in my native tongue, please?" And after that, all the responses were in English. That's the only time that has happened. Now, I have had accents before, and a lot of times when you're getting EVPs or you're getting responses, a lot of times they can come through very, very quickly, and so we have to separate them, have to slow it down so we can make out what they're saying. And in doing that, I've had Scottish accents, I've had Irish accents, I've had French accents, I've had British accents. As a matter of fact, in the King Henry session that I did, there were some British accents that came through there. So I have had that, but only once where it was another language.
Yeah. And I would say, too, thinking back on all the EVP sessions or all the EVPs and things, I can't. I would say, in all honesty, if there was foreign languages, I probably just didn't recognize them during evidence review, and put it off as just a Class B like gibberish kind of EVP. Right. You know, I think maybe there was like one time something Spanish, maybe, you know, because I do recognize like Mexican every once in a while. So like maybe something like that. But that's always interesting, though, to find out. And I've actually heard recently, like, I keep hearing a lot of EVPs in English, but I actually heard an EVP just recently. It was like Russian. It was an actual Russian investigator. And the responses were in Russian, so I thought that was pretty cool because I hardly ever hear stuff like that. So it's always pretty interesting whenever you do that. Also, Bob said they got Cherokee once.
Very nice. Right. Speaking of Cherokee, there was one time I had just downloaded the Portal app and I was playing around with it, and I kind of put a test out there on the Facebook page. Hey guys, why don't you listen through this and you do an evidence review? And one of our members, Faith, she came through and she said, "Well, you got someone who they called themselves Leather Lips." And at first, the name kind of freaked me out because I'm thinking Leatherface. Until you did research and you found out that he was a Native American chief who was trying to get, you know, the white people and the tribes to all get along, and he was murdered by one of the tribes for that very reason. So I thought that was fascinating.
Wow, yeah, that's definitely interesting on that. Now, let's see. Oh, one thing I wanted to bring up too. This was way back, and I just remember this because I'm sorry, guys. I've been trying to keep up with a lot of your comments and questions tonight. I'm trying to make sure that Philip has a chance to respond to a lot of them. I think it might have been either Pop and Fizz or Billy Bones, one of them, or somebody way earlier. They did mention something about you moving to like a really historical area, and how that might increase some things, and your thoughts on that.
I've definitely noticed some changes. I had lived in Las Vegas basically all my life. Born in Oregon, raised in Las Vegas. But you can really only take so much of Las Vegas for so long, and I felt like there was nothing there for me anymore, and I had an opportunity to move to the East Coast, to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and so I thought, well, okay, I'll do it, and moved out here. And when I started doing sessions again, I noticed a difference in the responses, a big difference in the responses. And so I thought maybe that the folks I was talking to back in Vegas would have followed me here to a certain degree, but I don't know if that happened. I asked for them. I said, "Hey, is there anybody here who used to talk to me in Vegas?" And there didn't seem to be that presence. So I think I'm kind of reintroducing myself to those who are out here. And because this is such a historic area, because basically there's a lot of violence in this area, I think that has really caused the change in the sessions that I'm having. And because I'm noticing that when I'm trying to ask for someone specific, they're not coming through as easily as when I was living in Las Vegas.
Okay. That's interesting. You know, it makes you wonder too, like do you think there's some competition of spirits, like, hey, get out of my way, I'm trying to talk to him, or like, hey, like, you stay back there, I'm trying to talk, you know, I have the floor.
What I am getting, and I normally don't talk about this just because it's usually the go-to for anybody who's trying to get likes or subscribers, so I try not to go this route because I normally think it's a cheap way to go. But in Vegas, again, everything was pretty much easygoing and cool. But I came out here, and I'm noticing that I'm getting the word demon a lot out here that I never got in Vegas. And so I had to lay the ground rules down of what I do allow, what I don't allow. And I'm noticing in every session, there's a shift in the mood of the session. and that I have to put that out there again. Hey guys, I'm telling you, I only allow those of love and light. I only allow those of higher vibration. If you're looking for love or if you're looking for help, let me know. I can try to, but anything else, you're not allowed. So I am noticing that change.
Yeah. Well, and I would say, yeah, especially with moving to an area like that, given the history and the historical area, and I think that's probably what they were trying to get at too, was that you being in this new historical area is definitely going to change some dynamics.
Right.
So that's always really cool. Let's see. Leslie said, "Do you think a lot of the communications are misunderstood because they are speaking in their native tongue?"
I don't know if I'm quite following the question. Are we talking about us not being able to pick up on a lot of the voices and the EVPs that are coming through because they're speaking basically a different language?
Probably. That's what it seems like she's getting at. Is like, do you think there's a lot that's misunderstood because it's a native, it's a foreign language, basically?
There's, you know what? I think there's a couple of things going on, and I think there's a couple of different reasons why, in my case, anyways, why I'm not able to really get a lot of what's coming through. I think if we're talking about spirits being on different vibrations in different spiritual planes, because there are some that sound muffled, there's some that sound very, very muffled, and there's some that they sound like they're standing right next to you. So I think there's that. If they're on a different plane, perhaps. If we're going to start getting into some quantum physics here, there is a theory that whoever is holding the session that the spirit's coming through can use the same language, because once you're in spirit, language is no longer an issue. It's because language is energy and vibration. You can pretty much speak any language. But if we're talking about some spirits out there being possible tricksters, they could be speaking a different language. As far as we know, we could have spirits sitting right there going blah, 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 and we're trying to decipher what this is by playing it backwards and slowing it down. So anything is possible.
Sure. And I would agree with that too. it's EVPs. It's really hard to say. I would also add on that too that I feel like the energy level, I think some spirits possess or are able to manipulate energy more than others. And I think that's why you have some that are more clear than others and things like that. You got to figure, like, imagine what it'd be like that you pass on. You no longer have a physical body. You don't have a mouth. You don't have vocal cords. You don't have feet. You don't have arms. You're just energy. So it would almost seem like there would be a little bit of a learning curve in that new world of how to interact with things. And it may take you 50, 60 years. It may take you a few days. Who knows? I don't know. Who knows what the learning curve is in the spirit realm to use your energy or to manipulate your energy into using other energies and communicating to the living or, whatnot.
Well, and I'm happy that you mentioned that, because that brings up a good point. Because I get people who ask me, what's the best app to use? What's the best EVP recorder to use? And theoretically, it has nothing to do with what device you're using, because you're really just providing noise for them to manipulate. It's your connection, is how are you approaching. And like with the Angel phone, we are told that EM energy is supposed to help them out. Truthfully, we don't know for a fact or not if it does, but we're told that it does. So that's why there's an EM pump in there, because I figure if we have a device that's supposed to help them communicate, if they need energy for that, if they need noise, and if they need vibration, let's have it in one unit. So technically you can use anything for communication. It's just, what's your connection with them, and how are you explaining and teaching to them how to use these devices? Because like you said, they don't have any of the physicalities anymore. It's all energy.
Yeah. Absolutely. And let's see, Leslie said that was another question. I guess when I was talking about the spirits kind of knocking each other out of the way, she said, she's like, she was going to ask, she's like, do you think there's a chain of command where it comes to spirit communicating with you? Is there like a chain of command, or does that just depend on which spirit uses the most energy?
Okay, so I'm only going by my experience. Only by my experience. I am not saying that this is a hard set rule. In my experience, whenever I do a session, I always say a prayer first. I say a prayer for protection. I say a prayer for love. I say a prayer for thanks. I put all these things in that prayer. I will generally ask for Archangel Michael, Raphael, and Azrael. And I ask that the doorway be protected, and I ask that the spirits who are coming through who want to speak, that they be assisted and that they be helped in. And there have been many occasions where you will hear a voice say, not your turn, or you'll hear someone say, so-and-so skipped the line, or, so you'll hear these things taking place, and you'll hear them argue amongst each other. Or you'll hear them help each other out. And it's an amazing thing when you hear that take place. So it depends how you set it up. I view it as if you are the facilitator. It is your room. It's your party. How are you throwing your party? How are you holding your room? How are you setting it up? So that's how I look at it. If you are opening up the doorway and you're saying, hey, everybody happy, and you're kind of letting everybody in, then that's what you're going to get. If you try to have it controlled, then I'm not saying you're going to have spirits not talk over each other. You will. I have that happen. But you will, and it's amazing, amazing, amazing. You will hear someone, whoever you have designated to be there, you'll hear them say, stand back, or you're not allowed, or go away, or get out. You'll hear these things, and it's amazing when it takes place.
Yeah. Man, I cannot believe, Philip, can you believe we are like at an hour and like 47 minutes? It's crazy. We have been flying through some time today. This is well my longest show so far.
Oh,
but that's
wow.
fine. We don't really have rules. We're not on a set limit. Unless it's your bedtime, then we'll but we've been having so many questions. A lot of theory discussion tonight. Really good stuff.
Good.
God, I said it again. I've got to break myself of that. I got to break to myself of that. Like, seriously. Okay. Vicky said, can someone post a link to purchase an Angel phone? So I think we can get you a link. That won't be a problem. Whether we put it, like, if we got to put a link somewhere in the Facebook group, because I think Vicky's part of the Facebook group on our side now as well. Whatever we got to do, we'll get you a link. Trust me. Titanican says, "What is?" We got some good questions coming up. We got like a few of them. So, Titanican says, "What is the scariest experience you've had?"
Well, the scariest experience, and this was way before I actually got into taking this seriously. Again, I was, 13 years old, I guess. And it was nighttime, maybe about 9, 10 o'clock. I was in my room, and it was super, super, super quiet. And I could hear someone walking around in my room. And at first, you question yourself, am I really hearing this? Am I just tired? But then there are certain physical things that actually are taking place that you can't deny that it's actually happening. And so I went to bed. Now you gotta remember my age, guys. The 80s was my era. I was born in 74. And woo! And so Velcro on shoes was really big back then. And so I took my shoes off, had them on the floor, in a very unkept way, the way a 13-year-old boy would.
Heck yeah.
And I went, how you roll, and went to bed. Well, probably about maybe not even an hour into my sleep, I heard Velcro ripping. So I woke up, turned on my light, and there was no sound, and everything was quiet and peaceful, and shoes were right where I left them. So I turned the light back off, thought, well, I just went to sleep. Or I just, was hearing it in my sleep type of thing, went back to bed. And about 30 minutes later, I heard that sound again. Woke up, turned on the lights, and so this happened a couple of different times. The last time, I purposely kept my eyes and I stayed awake. I turned the light off, laid back down, but I stayed awake, and I heard that Velcro ripping again. But this time, while I was hearing the Velcro ripping, I was hearing a sound in my closet, my clothes closet. It sounded like someone had a wine rack and was shaking wine glasses in my closet.
Wow.
And it was a very, very still night, and that scared me. But this was also the period in my life when I was having a lot of night terrors, and you talk about sleep paralysis. I was having that almost every night. My bed was vibrating a lot, and so there was just a lot that was going on. So I was scared a lot during that period of my life, and it was just a combination of those things that was taking place that was causing that.
I mean, that could be very scary as an adult to have something like that happen, especially. I mean, and because look, I would love to say that I'm perfectly stoic in all these situations, but when you're a paranormal investigator, even seasoned or not, I mean, you still get out there, and there's some things that can get pretty scary for you.
Oh, sure.
Leslie says, this question is for both of you. Do either of you know what spirit was the oldest time period that you have made contact with?
Oh, wow. I'll let you take the reins on that one, sir.
Oh, well, I would say this. I'm a believer. Again, this all falls back on beliefs, different beliefs and stuff maybe, but I'm definitely a believer in ancient spirits, of some of the fallen Nephilim and things like that. I do believe that their spirits are bound here for eternity. So I do think that that is what we call evil spirits. So I do feel like that there was times when I was in contact with some of those evil spirits. So yes, they could be technically dated back, 5,000 plus years ago, if you really want to get technical. As far as a human spirit, I would say the earliest I could think of was actually an attachment I had. I picked up an attachment from the St. Augustine Lighthouse. And I was leaving there. My wife remembers after we left the St. Augustine Lighthouse, which was kind of a bust. It was kind of boring, actually. We got one EVP, and it was in the parking lot. But on the way home, I actually had an attachment, and I was like very feverish. I didn't feel good. But I just kept picking up that there was a sailor, and it was really went back, I felt like, to about either the late 1800s or early 1900s was a sailor. And finally around Tallahassee, I think I was able to shake him off and sort of ditch the hitchhiker, so to speak. But that's as far as, kind of what I feel like. I feel like, yes, some evil spirits, I think, again, could be thousands of years old. Mm-hmm. Human spirits, again, I feel like that could have been my earliest, so...
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to we never really know. We just really don't know.
Yeah.
If I was to make an assumption, I purposely tried to reach out to King Henry VIII, and I got some really good responses out of that session. And he was kicking during the 15th century, or 1500s. So I would say that time period, assuming that everyone was honest and truthful when they were coming through and speaking. Right. So it's just really hard to say. One thing that is a definite with this is that there are no definites.
Right. Yeah. Rose, the Rose Raven and Lily, she said, "Do you get the same session results in a graveyard as you do in your house?"
No. As a matter of fact, I tried doing sessions in some graveyards in Vegas, and I'll be honest with you, I felt very, very weird. It felt heavy. It felt like there was an audience there standing, staring at me, and kind of like, I didn't feel anything bad, but I felt like, maybe this isn't the time and place to do this. They were some of my earliest videos that I posted, so but there are some graveyards out here. There's one in particular that I want to go to. I was checking it out. I mean, the graveyards out here, I mean, they are real graveyards. I mean, they're like New Orleans style graveyards out here, you know. And I mean, you're not too terribly far, so you know the type of graveyards I'm talking about. Um, and there's one that I saw. It's an unmarked grave for a military service woman or man. No name, no nothing. It's just an unmarked, nameless grave for someone who served in the military. And so I do want to go there and try to hold a session there just to find out who this person is. Give them a name if they can, if they want to, give them a voice. And so I do want to see what happens out here because of the land just being so old.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool, especially anytime you get historical areas. That's one of the things I do like about even us located here in the sort of the mountains and of Bristol, Tennessee. We have a lot of old Civil War history, things like that through here. Some very old family graves up in some hollers. There's some pretty good history back in here at times. So, but we have traveled. We start out down south, some other great areas, and you're of course over there, and some amazing territory up there. So I would imagine that, I think it depends on the location, kind of going to the original question.
Right.
I just think you could have amazing sessions probably anywhere. Just depends on the spiritual activity. I mean, whether it's a cemetery, somebody's house. I mean, I don't know. I would think it would just be location based. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and especially if you have a spirit that's tied to that location. Technically we can say that spirits are everywhere, but there might be some who will be more attached to certain areas for their own particular reasons. So, I definitely agree with you.
And Stacy Singer came in here and said, "Is Alice in Wonderland syndrome connected to the astral plane? Always had a deep feeling it was somehow."
What I would say in regards to that, Stacy, I'm gonna kind of put this back on you. If you have in your gut at any point, if you have if you have a strong feeling about something, it's said that is your inner being giving you inspired thought, and that you should follow that inspired thought. And so, if you're feeling strongly about it, that tells me that follow that thought process. I don't feel I can give you a definite yes or no. Again, I believe that just about anything is possible, but it's something worth digging into. It's and it's funny, you guys are really bringing up some fantastic theories and thoughts, because that is something I normally would not have thought of. In fact, I hate to say it, but I actually kind of forgot about the Alice in Wonderland syndrome. So thank you for bringing that back up. Because in fact, let me make a note on that, because that's something else I'm gonna make a point to look into a little bit more.
Yeah. You see why I love live format, Philip? You got so many great people that can get on here and really rack your brain, really keeps you on your toes, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. And it's fantastic. And what I would say, if that is something that you're going to be researching, you're going, don't. My only advice is there's going to be a lot of conspiracy theorists. There's going to be a lot of people who have their own ideas, and if you can find even a nugget of solid scientific proof to back it up. For example, everything is related to the atom. Look into quantum physics, into quantum theories. That's where a lot of this stuff lies. Take someone's theory, take your own theories, and start asking why. Well, why? Well, here's why. Well, why? The more you ask why, the deeper you're going to get into it, and the more you're going to start clearing the muck and the dirt away, until you start coming up to a theory that is going to be hard to argue.
Yeah. You guys have had some amazing questions tonight. I mean, seriously, we could probably go on all night. We're gonna start to wrap it up because we hit the 2 hour mark, which believe me, like I said, it'd be amazing. I'm sure you guys could probably sit here and we could all chit chat for probably another 4 or 5 hours. I'm sure, easily. I'm serious. I think you guys are that full of questions and enthusiasm. It's amazing. So I really appreciate you guys out there. Seriously. So let's talk a little bit of things as we kind of wrap some things up. One question that I have that I want to get to. I at least got to get to this question because this is a question I ask of all my guests. Is that excuse me? All right. So Philip, if you could go back in time. If you could pick one day that you can go back in time as like a ghost, in other words, you're not going to be able to interact, okay? You can't manipulate anything. Just a ghost. You're just going there to observe, right? Go back to one day in time. What would it be and why?
Funny enough, I have actually thought about this question, maybe not as a spirit form, but if I were to ever go back in time, what would I want to see? Funny enough, I would want to be witness to the very first life form that crawled up out of the ocean onto Earth. I would want to see that because that would have been the moment that everything would have started as far as life appearing. So I would want to see that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's definitely interesting. I mean, I think that could be pretty cool. Because there is those key moments in time, right? I mean, there's so many to choose from too, so it's hard to just narrow down to one. I mean, it's slightly unfair question, but it's a fun question. I always like it. For me, I always say that I would love to witness, like one good day, like one solid day of the pyramids being built.
Oh, okay.
Because I feel like that's also a pivotal moment in time when you could learn a lot. You could learn a lot, I believe, if you witnessed how the pyramids were built. So, like one good day of that, of right, like a key moment of that construction, I think would be, just pivotal to a lot of things in history. Anyway, so that's one of my favorite personal answers I like to do. I've heard things like Tesla, and there's all kinds of things out there. But yeah, for sure, guys, listen, hopefully, and I'm not trying to put Philip on the spot, but hopefully we'll get him back on the show soon. You guys seem like you have a lot of questions. I'm sure we could do another round 2. I think even Billy Bones mentioned it, that we need another round of this. My wife even said, yeah, you got to, come back on again. So certainly, Philip, live on the air, we'd like to extend an invitation to you to come back on soon, and hopefully we'll be able to pick your brain more, and hopefully you guys will be all those other questions that you guys have been throwing out there, you'll be able to get those in there. I tried to get to everybody, guys. I really did. Hopefully I got to everybody's question for the most part. I think we did. If not, just write it down. Remember it for next time. Philip, what do you got going on? What's some of the things that you want to plug out there? What do you got coming up in your life, and what's the next chapter? What's coming up for Philip Page?
Well, there's been some amazing things that have really been happening lately. There is a YouTube influencer out there, a pretty big one by the name. I'm gonna plug him here real quick. I hope he doesn't mind. But his name is Frank, and his channel is Franco TV, and he Franco TV Adventures, and he got a hold of me because he wanted an Angel box, and he didn't know that I knew who he was, and so just a sweetheart of a guy, one of the nicest guys you could ever meet, and since meeting him, just a lot of things have just been coming into play, and I told him, so yeah, I've been feeling myself getting kind of kind of complacent with my session videos. I need to, get my butt in gear and start doing stuff that I used to be doing. So that's going to be one of the biggest things, and especially out here in Pittsburgh, there are so many areas out here. In fact, I was doing research today on where I could go, and I have at least 6 locations lined up already that I'm going to go out into the field and go back into doing, investigations, but doing it from more of not so much, we're trying to find ghosts, but from the point of let's do some ITC and see if there is anybody who's still connected to this area or this land that maybe needs help or needs to have a message passed on. And so I'm going to be getting back into doing that. And I've decided that I'm going to be, and I don't know if this is a good decision, but I've decided nonetheless that I'm going to go back into devoting myself full time into doing this. And so that means, of course, the videos and the investigations, building these boxes and inventing new stuff, and hopefully getting to a point where I can get out and actually travel and just start having a wider reach and just doing what my initial mission statement was, and that's to try to save ghosts, so to speak.
That's awesome. And like I said, it's you do some good work. We're always honored to have you on here. It's been a lot of fun, folks. There's just so many comments, man. You really need to go back and watch and see all the comments in here. It's some awesome. Good stuff. I think even like Leslie said that she wanted to go back and see dinosaurs. Might be a little cheesy, but that'd be kind of cool. The Battle of LA was thrown out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, some people threw some good stuff out there, but I just said good stuff again. But yeah, so I'm really trying to battle that, folks. I'm telling you. But yeah, man,
the struggle is real.
I cannot believe how time has flown today. I mean, we have just been sailing through so much paranormal stuff, and I really hope if you guys got something helpful from this video. I mean, first of all, you got to go over to Saving Ghosts and subscribe. Pull him up on Facebook. Click like on his stuff. Click like on my stuff. Do all that, man. Like, it's the day and age where we probably don't have to tell you these things. Most people are just going to go do them anyways, but we have to say it. So go do all that. Subscribe to our stuff. Share all of our stuff, man. You guys have been amazing. Like I said, I do this every week around Thursday at 9 o'clock. So by all means, if you guys like this, we're going to get Phillip back on. We have other amazing guests. In fact, I've got another paranormal team that's we're looking at bringing on coming up. And I can't mention their name yet because they haven't signed on the dotted line. You have to kind of give me part of your soul whenever you come on the show. So did I disclose that? I didn't mean to say that.
Now you tell me.
You forgot everything we just heard. Okay. So, see, we're getting silly now, man. We're going so long. We're just getting goofy.
Did you just do a Jedi move on me?
I did. I tried. I was like, I just did a mind track. Jedi mind track. Doesn't work on me. Oh. Where were we? I don't know. It's crazy.
You were wrapping up,
Yes, we're wrapping up. But other than that, folks, hey, remember, guys, seek the truth. We'll see you on the next episode.